Dear participants, it gives me a great pleasure to invite Mr. Manish Dabkara here among us. Now, in the class, I have really discussed about him and his company a lot. So, and you know the background. I have also shared with you the investor analysis presentation where a company having in a service firm having a margin of 25%, and one of the world largest. So you can imagine that, and we discuss the share price also. So these were the few things we discussed in the class. So it's a really great honor to invite Mr. Manish Dabkara here. He's currently the managing director of EnKing International, EnKing Energy Services Ltd. The best part is he's from Indore. He did his MTech from Indore, and he studied at IIM Indore as well as IIM Ahmedabad. And he did his MTech in energy management. And naturally, he went with his passion of working in an energy industry and in multiple level. And currently, he's his own startup and a company where he's managing, and he's taking care of business development, branding, and other type of operations. A person who went with his own feeling about, yes, I want to do something in energy, founded a company and scaled it up in such a big manner that it could be very nice listed in Bombay Stock Exchange and having top class international clients. The company also has recently signed a joint venture with Shell, and we know very well when we do Shell scenario planning and other activities, it's such a nice, very systematic management-oriented energy company, which has and having a collaboration with EnKing and Shell. It itself tells you how big that particular organization EnKing per se is. So I will leave the floor open to Mr. Manish Dabkara. I really request him to please take it forward from here and enlighten our IIM Indore students about the business model, your startup. How do you create value for your clients? So this floor is open. And just wanted to share you, Mr. Manish, that this particular batch of students are in ranking in Fortune Time 100 ranking. So our MBA program, executive MBA program from IIM Indore, is ranked internationally and focus all around. So I believe you'll be very happy to interact with these students. Yes. Floor is open to you.
Surely, sir. Thank you very much for the introduction and inviting me to share the story of EnKing International along with the business model and the value. How do we create value for the clients at the national and international level? So, good evening, everyone. Once again, just a minute. Yes. So this is Manish Dabkara. I am CMD and CEO at EKI Energy Services Ltd. Our brand name is EnKing International, and these are the BSE script code. So we are listed at Bombay Stock Exchange. Yes. Now we are the global carbon markets leader for the commodity, which is also called as the biggest commodity, which is going to get its position in the 21st century. So we are working in the carbon credit domain. Yeah, so we are working in the carbon credit domain, and the carbon credit story starts from these two words called as the global warming and the climate change. So just to make you aware about the global warming, you may be aware about what is the global warming, what is the climate change, but few I can say students may not be having the clear information about how this climate change, global warming or how this global warming, then climate change, and this carbon credit industry had been evolved. So starting from this basic information about the greenhouse gases and the greenhouse gas effect. So if you see at the left hand side, there is a in the picture it has been mentioned related to the natural greenhouse gas effect. So the greenhouse gases are the gases which helps which retains the heat that they do encounter when they during the daytime, when they do encounter with the sun radiation. So if you see here, the sun radiations are coming from sun on the earth, and then few of the radiations goes back to the space. And so during that particular incoming and outgoing of this particular radiations, these greenhouse gases, they do retain heat. and they do have global warming potential. So they do retain heat, and at the night time they do emit heat, so that our temperature on Earth do remain around 24-25 degrees centigrade, and that is the pleasant temperature which is very much required for living beings, for human beings, for plants, for animals, to be there on Earth, to grow successfully. So, but now after industrialization, this human enhanced greenhouse gas effect had created a problem. So more, and if you see here, the picture clearly mentions the greenhouse gases concentration in the atmosphere is more as compared to the pre-industrialized era. And so more and more heat is getting retained in the atmosphere, and then it is again re-radiated or and during at the night time. And so the global temperature rise is happening, and that is why this global warming means the temperature rise of the ambient temperature, whatever used to be there. So the temperature rise is happening, and that is called as the global warming. And this global warming is creating another effect called as the climate change. So climate change means whatever the climate was there during the pre-industrialized area, and now after the whatever the era in which we are living, so the climate is changing drastically. Like if you see the temperature, because of the temperature rise, the sea level rise is increasing. Various diseases existence on the earth which was not there earlier, but now it's increasing, and various other impacts are there because of this global warming and climate change. So to to reduce this climate change effect, UNFCCC had been constituted. United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change had been constituted during year 1992-1993. Around that particular time, it had been recognized that this global warming is happening because of the industrialization, and we should reduce the impact, or we should, at that time it had been discussed that we should reduce the impact of this global warming because of the more and more concentration of the greenhouse gases that is going to get that had been already added that time, and in the future whatever the growth would be there at the developing and developed nations, and because of which the more and more addition of greenhouse gases will be there. So there should be something be done to either cap it, reduce it, avoid it, or in other different aspects. It should be this problem should be handled. So the momentum kept from formation of UNFCCC. After that, Kyoto Protocol came into the picture during 1997, which had actually entered into force during 2005. After this 2005, the Kyoto Protocol, it had been in this particular Kyoto Protocol, it had been discussed, or it had been decided that the obligated entities who are responsible for this global warming are majorly the developed nations, and they should reduce the emissions. So, but in the Article 12 of the Kyoto Protocol, it had been decided that if these industrialized nations, say European Union or Australia or New Zealand or Japan, Russia, or maybe USA. USA had not signed the treaty from up to 2020, but during 2021 they had again signed this Paris Agreement. So, in the Kyoto Protocol, it had, if you see the Annexure 1 of the Kyoto Protocol, various nations name are there which are industrialized in nature, and it had been decided that all these industrialized nations are responsible for this global warming, addition of this extensive greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, and they should reduce the emissions now. And if they are not able to do it, for example, then they are allowed to buy carbon credit, which is also, you can say, an environmental commodity, and they can buy those carbon credits from the projects which are located in the developing nation. So what is carbon credit? Carbon credit is 1 ton CO2 emission reduction from the atmosphere, and companies, sellers, sell this carbon credits to the commercial and individual customers or nations who are interested in lowering their carbon footprint to achieve carbon neutrality. So the first step should be to determine what is the carbon footprint at the organization or nation level. Then you put all the measures to reduce the same. And at last, if you're not able to achieve the target, you should that Article 12 adopted in Kyoto Protocol under Article 12. So developed nations they have worked extensively to reduce the emissions within the nation, either by implementation of the emission trading scheme, or by adopting carbon taxes, or putting more and more measures for having low carbon technologies, adaptation of the low carbon technologies or measures within the nation. But if various nations they were not able to do to achieve the emission reduction targets, and then they were allowed to buy the carbon credit. So this carbon credit industry had started from year 2005. These are the 7 greenhouse gases which had been approved by United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So if you do either do activity which helps to reduce or avoid or mitigate these greenhouse gases, or either sequester these greenhouse gases, then you would be able to earn this environmental commodities called as carbon credit. So carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide. So carbon dioxide usually comes from burning of fossil fuel. Methane usually comes from decomposition of organic waste material. Nitrous oxide used to come usually from the agricultural activities, and various other sources are also there, but I'm just giving the example from what is the basic source, you can say. HFC PFC comes from the refrigeration industry. They use this gases as a refrigeration. Then sulfur hexafluoride comes from the electrical industry. They use it in the circuit breakers. So the various other sources are there from where this greenhouse gases used to get emitted into the atmosphere. And if you do any business activity which helps to reduce or mitigate or sequester these greenhouse gases, then you would be able you would be entitled to earn carbon credit revenues or get the project registered. So there are various international carbon credit standards are there, called maybe CDM, Clean Development Mechanism. Another standards are Verified Carbon Standard, then Gold Standard, then Global Carbon Council, Social Carbon, and in n number of standards are there. Recently, after this COP26 Conference of Parties meeting number 26, various there is a new business line that had been started in our industry, is the formation of the carbon credit standards, formation of the carbon credit registries, formation of the marketplaces where people can buy and sell the credits, formation of the exchanges where people buy and sell the credits. So various new sort, you can say, various from the traditional people like us who are giving advisory services, who are giving the auditing services. Now this 3-4 sectors we saw there's a huge boom, and the people are looking aggressively to establish themselves into that particular 4-5 different business streams, which are quite closely connected with the generation and selling of carbon credits. So yes, so we have covered this, what is carbon credit, greenhouse gases. These are few kind of projects. If you do any business activity under this particular segment, then you would be eligible to earn this environmental commodity. So like a renewable energy project, if you are putting solar power project, wind, hydro, biomass, biogas, geothermal, solar water heaters, or other renewable energy projects. Energy efficiency, if you do any activity in the form of lighting processes, process optimization, waste recovery projects, boilers, furnaces, or various electrical or thermal utilities which we use in industries, either manufacturing or services. If you do an activity while doing the same, for example, if you do in the service industry, say building sector, green buildings are also eligible to earn carbon credit revenues or get the project registered. And then nature-based solution projects are there. Although you may be having information that the carbon sequestration technologies during this time is not very much feasible, but yes, nature-based solution projects like forestry, agriculture, blue carbon. So these are projects are eligible. Blue carbon means putting mangroves over the seashore. Those credits used to be called as a blue carbon credit. So community-based projects, if you do distribute cook stoves at the rural community, and then it will help to reduce consumption of wood within the wood driven as a fuel cook stoves, and then you would be able to, we would be able to earn carbon credit revenues. Waste management projects. Delhi Metro is one of a very good example here in India. In many other segments of this, Delhi Metro is one of the project. Then various projects are there at the upstream oil and gas industry, downstream. So if you do any business activity, so the crux is if you do any business activity that is helping to reduce, that means mitigate or sequester these 7 greenhouse gases, you would be eligible to earn the carbon credits. And if you have observed, here is mentioned tons of CO2 equivalent. Equivalent means in all the 7 greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide used to be considered as the base gas, and the global warming potential of all these greenhouse gases used to be measured in reference to considering carbon dioxide as a base gas. So if you see, the methane is having global warming potential of 24. So it means if you do reduce 1 ton methane, then it's equivalent to 24 tons of carbon dioxide emission reduction from the atmosphere. And that means you would be eligible to earn, if you do reduce 1 ton methane, you would be eligible to earn 24 carbon credits. So E means equivalent. So yeah. So that is just a minute. Yes, so that is a basic information about our industry. So it had been started from the greenhouse gases, greenhouse effect, then global warming, climate change, UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, then Kyoto Protocol, then Paris Agreement. Now we are there in the Paris Agreement. So what is the difference? The difference between Kyoto Protocol and Paris Agreement is in Kyoto Protocol, it had been considered all developed nations are responsible for the global warming and they should reduce the emissions. While in the major difference between Kyoto and Paris Agreement is in Paris Agreement, it had been considered that all developed nations and developing nations, that means all nations are responsible for the global warming and they should reduce their emissions. And so each nation under the Paris Agreement had submitted their nationally determined contribution document. And under that document, they had mentioned how are they going to reduce the emissions. And just for your information, before coming to a story of EKI and then coming to the business model, just for your information, under the Paris Agreement, it had been decided that 1.5 degrees centigrade should be the that means all nations should work together so that we would be able to cap temperature rise to 1.5 degrees centigrade, and upper limit should be 2 degrees centigrade. That means the temperature rise should not be more than 2 degrees centigrade. Whatsoever the emission trajectory that we do have, if we do add all the nations' emission trajectory, the upward trajectory, then 3.3 degrees centigrade is the temperature rise that is going to happen by the end of the century. And I think we would be able to see it earlier also. but the national determined contributions that had been submitted by all the nations, only 0.3 degrees centigrade temperature is going to reduce if all indices which had been submitted to UNFCCC, if they will to achieve their 100% target, then only 0.3 degrees centigrade. That means from 3.3 degrees centigrade, we would be ending degrees centigrade by the end of the century. And already we are 1 degree centigrade temperature had been added already during 2019 to the atmosphere that means into the atmosphere. 1 degree centigrade already temperature had been added. So the ambient temperature whatsoever used to happen at various different parts of the world, already 1 degree centigrade extra temperature had been added. So this is a present situation. So all nations during 2015, the majority of the nations had submitted their NDCs, and now it had been during last COP26 at Glasgow, UK. Nations had been asked to submit more ambitious targets to reduce the emissions. Otherwise, we would be facing more and more natural calamities and more impacts because of this global warming and climate change. So coming over to my my basic information, I born and brought up at Mahu. I did my education from Indore and Bhopal. I did my B from Oriental Institute, Bhopal, and then I did my MTech in Energy Management from School of Energy, DAVV Indore. Now, after that, I started. I was majorly focusing at the Madhya Pradesh MP state level to get provide the advisory services in the climate change domain. Then slowly we have raised to the national level, and now we are there in the 40 plus nations. So our clients are there in the 40 plus nations. When I was working during 2007-8, I was working with a company called as SGS India. And there I had identified, I was working as the validator and verifier, you can say the auditor of all these greenhouse gas projects which are looking to get themselves registered and get the issuance of carbon credits from them after registration with the suitable climate change, or you can say GG mitigation program. So the idea that had been popped up during 2007 that not many good consulting companies are there in India. They are working slowly. They are working inefficiently. Many projects are getting rejected. Who are looking to get their registrations or verifications. So I thought, why not to start a good consulting company or advisory company. So during 2008-9, I started this company as a proprietorship firm with 5 plus people, obviously starting from 1, that is me. Then during 2011, 3rd May 2011, we had incorporated this company as EKI. So EKI means EnKing International Energy Services Ltd. At that time, most of the time from 2015, we were almost 15 to 20 around people. And then during 2021, we have got listed over Bombay Stock Exchange. And so now we are 150 people looking to become 300 plus very soon. And during first half, the top line of our organization was around 650 Indian rupees, 650 crores approximately during 2021. So slowly, during 2008-9 during 2011, there were many competitors, including say Ernst & Young, KPMG, Deloitte, PwC. So we were there into maybe you can consider tier 4, tier 5 segment where we were working on only small projects, retail sector investors. We were working, but once this failure of Kyoto Protocol during commitment period 2 had happened, starting from 1 January 13 to 2020, where majority of the developed nations had withdrawn from the Kyoto Protocol. So only European Union was there under the commitment period 2, starting from 13 to 20. So various many competitors of ours had gone out of the industry, And there we got the chance to grow ourselves at a deep level. Although many competitors were going out, and so the faith in the industry. So because of the inefficiencies, various projects were rejected. Various projects had not got the issuance of the credits. Various credits remain unsold. Slowly, we acquired all those projects and credits, and we were able to bring value for our clients when most of the competitors were going out of the industry. So during the scaling of the startup, as usual journey, various organizations, either in the manufacturing or services, they do face the similar sort of problem. So we also face the similar stuff related to the talent acquisition. So there is no in our industry, there is no specific college, there is no specific school or college which is there in India, or I think globally also, where we would be able to find the trained resources, so that we would be we would work like as a plug and play to scale up. So we had faced a big problem, and still we are struggling for the same. We have our internal team which is there only for giving the training for the people internally, to get them trained to have their good skill sets in reference to the carbon credit project registration verification services. Then retention is the another problem, because we are located in non-metro cities. The another problem that we have faced is related to the startup funding. Another is the cash crunch. So we have faced the same during 2012 and 2015, having various unsecured loans, that means we were evolving our business model that during that particular time, and we took not very good decision to have efficient people on board. Another one is taking unsecured loans at high interest rates, and so that also again created a cash crunch problem for us. And the startup funding, that means if we want to get the fund for the startups, it's quite difficult, because we do not startups used to not have the collaterals. So they do not used to have good credentials, top line, good bottom line. So obviously the banks that without collaterals, they do not fund. As of now, somehow the situation is being improved, but the people who are working, so mindset changes of which government of India into the place. So there is somehow relaxation is there for getting the startup funding, but you should be having good credentials in place. Then recognition, we were competing against EY, KPMG, brands. So that was the problem we faced. Our main base of our clients are located either in metro cities. All the big investors, big companies, industries, they do have their head office there at metros or outside India. So that was the problem that we have faced. But slowly we have found problem. So patient persistence made our organization to get surface from the startup to the micro company, then small, then medium, and then we the number of clients. Based at the number of clients, the number of the financial position, top line, bottom line, we should be categorized into the large organization now. So during 13 years of consistent struggling, we have found the various opportunities in the carbon credit industry that we already discussed about 1994 UNFCCC. Then Kyoto Protocol. So actually EKI born during the initial period when the Kyoto Protocol came into the existence, when the carbon market came into the existence during 2007-8. You can say and the carbon industry had been started during 2005. The Paris Agreement then came during 2015, and slowly we also had enlarged our client base, or we had gone more deep into the industry to have deep knowledge related to the carbon market, how the carbon credits used to be sold in the voluntary carbon market, into the compliance carbon market, under various different registries, various different programs. There are various different regulatory requirements within India, out of India. So this 13 years consistent had given us a very good base. Now, during next 1 to 5 years, our organization is very much prepared to have a maximum market share in the Indian carbon markets, the domestic carbon market, which is going to happen, which is going to establish in next 1 to 5 years timeline. Then, after each nation would be having its own carbon market under Article 2, there would be cooperative approaches agreement between the two nations. Then we would be working into the same under Article 6.4 under international carbon markets, which is quite similar, going to get established as compared to the clean development mechanism under Article 12 of Kyoto Protocol. So the organization is now very much well prepared and to have maximum market share, having good leadership in reference to giving the best advice and services to our clients. So coming over creating value for our service from our services for the organization. So what we do actually is we do give GHG greenhouse gases project registration, verification, and trading advisory services. As we had discussed, I have covered like various different GHG reduction or GHG mitigation programs are there. Carbon credit standard programs are there, called as clean development mechanism, verified carbon standard, gold standard, CERs, both CERs. CERs means certified emission reduction, VR means verified emission reduction. International renewable energy certificates, gold standard labeled international renewable certificates, Tiger, Vista, RD Plus, various compliance and voluntary markets programs are there, and we are working on majority of the same, under which whatever the environmental commodities are there and which are highly liquid in nature to be sold in the international carbon market, we are working under all those possible programs. We also help organizations to determine their carbon footprint, either at the project level, at the company level, at the event level, or whatever the boundary if they have set. We are working, we are giving advisory services for the same. We also help similar organizations to have their CDP or you can say sustainability reporting or having net zero target. If they have signed the voluntary pages, then we help them too. That means whatever they need under the sustainability domain, we give advice services for the same. And now we are working to become project developer to have more sustainable top line and bottom line. That means sustainable top line, bottom line means if we get sustainable volume of the carbon credits, then we would be having low risk in terms of having the present business model for the long term. So we are now working on ground to create nature-based solution projects through Shell, with the help of with Shell. So Shell and we would be investing into the nature-based solution projects, putting forest, putting sustainable agricultural practices, and putting mangroves on ground. And then claiming for the carbon credits and rural community projects. So in the rural community, rural villages, whatever the activities that we can do will help to reduce the emissions and make their life easy. Also, we would be able to claim the carbon credits. Only the return that will come from NBS, from rural community projects, would be through carbon financing. There would not be any. There would not be any. So there would not be any services or there would not be any revenue stream we would be having under the project implementation that we'll do on ground in the form of NBS projects or rural community based projects. But that will be the only carbon finance will bring the ROI for us, return on investment, or the further the value that created for the organization after investing into such kind of projects. So this is a short. This is a picture which will help you to understand the business model and how EKI will get integrated under the Paris Agreement. And the Paris Agreement is not only for a year or 2 or 10 years or decade or 2 decades, but it will be for many years to come. That means by the end of the century, till end of the century, this Paris Agreement will do drive or will do help or will do create the requirement for the services that EKI is providing. So we do under the Paris Agreement, the target is to limit 1.5 degrees centigrade, 2 degrees centigrade should be the upper limit. This is the number which will do help EKI sustainability to its business model is we need 52 to 58 gigatons of CO2 emission reduction from the atmosphere on annual basis to achieve this particular target. And obviously, if the nations would not be able to do it, then international carbon market mechanisms would be there, under which nations or eventually you can say the manufacturing service organizations would be able to buy and sell the credits at the cross borders, you can say. And then what the country level, at the country level, the nations need to do is have regulations, have policies, have emission trading scheme, have carbon tax mechanisms, create a domestic market, and create internationally traded mitigation outcomes under cooperative approaches. That means Article 6.2. Then each nation would be required to submit its monitoring, reporting, and verification MRVs to UNFCCC. So first, what do we need to do is to submit the NDCs here, national determined contributions, on how are we going to achieve this Paris Agreement target, and then every 2 years or 4 years, 5 years, we need to submit the national MRV to the United Nations, so that they will be accumulating all those information, and then would create more. Then they may ask for the nations to have more ambitious target, or otherwise whatever is going on, if it's fine, then no problem at all. Then the nation will give the target to the national level manufacturing and service organizations to have their GHG accounting, implement more and more mitigation measures. And otherwise, if they are not able to do, then they may be allowed to buy carbon credits. So, organizations in next 1 to 5 years would be required to do MRV. So here, this particular, you can say, this particular block diagram will demonstrate the immense requirement of the services in reference to the climate change domain, either in the form of giving advice services, to prepare GHG inventory, to put GHG projects, to achieve carbon neutrality, buy and sell the carbon credits. So these are the sectors which are going to boom in next 1 to 5 years initially, and then it will be like you can say ever-growing industry. The Article 6.2, 6.4 will create more demand in reference to buying and selling of carbon credit. Voluntary market during last 8 years, the voluntary market had created the big demand into the industry. Voluntary market means people do not have any target that had been given by the nation, but they want to do it voluntarily. So like Microsoft is doing my voluntarily, because since they are located, their head office is there, or the major operations, you can say, is there in US, and US is not having any compliance mechanism. So whatever they are doing is the voluntary nature. Then again, the aviation industry and maritime shipping industry are going to play their important role in reference to reduction of the emissions. So this is how the business model that we have is in reference to the comprehensive carbon credit advisory services. So various services we do provide, but just to demonstrate what we do under this particular vertical, comprehensive carbon credit advisory services. So starting the business model is simply means a plan for successful operation of a business through different various verticals. So identification under this particular vertical, we had identified the sources of revenue from the products and services. So the first services, the sort of services we do provide is advisory services for getting the project registration, for getting the project verification, for getting the projects, for selling the credits. So we give advisory services in the form of brokerage, and also we do trading of the credit. So this is the sources of revenue that our organization is having. Then intended customer base. So all eligible projects which are either registered, which are not registered, and majority developing and you can say developed nations also. And then we do identify the customer base there at established emission trading schemes, which are majorly there at the developed nations. So European Union is having a very famous and having a maximum number of clients, which is there in any emission trading scheme located within European Union nations. Dealing with financing, so we had found various sources of financing to get our operational activities at its peak. So bank OD limits we do have good good profits within the books. We had raised fund from the IPO. Now we are looking to have the next round of raising the fund with a larger value that we can gain from the equity value that had been created after the IPO listing. And advances from the clients is also one of the source of finance for us. Final need of the client that we have identified during the last 13 years is first we were thinking only giving the registration and verification services would be the value creation for us, but after that we have identified that client somehow they may get happy once their project had got registration or either had got verification. But actually important value that they are looking for is the carbon financing in the form of selling carbon credits. So up to 2008 to 2015-16, we were majorly focusing over advisory services, getting more and more number of projects. But ultimately, clients were not very happy. They were happy like their projects are registered, verified, and now they are eligible to earn carbon credit revenues during the crediting period of that particular project, either starting from 10 years to 90 years. But they were majorly looking for the carbon finance from the sale of carbon credit that they had considered at the time of project conceptualization. So we had started our trading desk, and then we were at that time we were working in the spot market and the forward market. Then we have identified like we should not go into the forward contracts, because forward contracts will bring the hedging for the trade price for our clients, and they would not be able to earn high, because we are majorly working under the revenue sharing model. So we do invest under to complete all the project activities, and then we'll do share revenue. So that is the value that we have created during last from 2016 to 20, and after that we have identified that giving whole advance payment to the client and taking all risk and opportunities at our end would create more value for our client and for ourselves. So with this business model, we have removed most of the competitors from the market at the national and international level, since they do not have manpower, they do not have technical expertise, they would not. They are not able to identify all the risks and opportunities in reference to this particular business model. And so this business model that we have surfaced during last 1 year had again created a new legacy for the organization. So these are a few of our clients at the national and international level. Out of 2,500 plus clients we do have. So this is the last slide of mine related to the milestones that we have achieved during last 13 years. So we have satisfied 2,500 plus clients, 150 plus people at 18 plus nations, 1,000 projects plus we have executed, and we have mobilized 150 plus million credits. So we are the only listed company in the world in the carbon credit domain, having market cap of 5,000 plus crores, and having big investing partners like Shell, by which we'll do focus more Asian market, and it makes EKI as one of the world's largest carbon credit project developer and supplier. So I'm done, and this is the last slide of mine, and now I wish to hand over the same uh, uh, to the team to take it ahead.
Sure, sure. Thanks, Professor Manish. It was a good presentation. And the floor is open for questions. So, would like to ask the questions? Now, my thing when I was the students are writing there, so I believe in the chat and then they'll speak. But I have two questions. One thing you mentioned, your clients are delighted. So, in the means your delivery mechanism is excellent. So, the process and the resources which you have created for the delivery mechanism is coming out well. So how do you manage that once you decide this is a client and the delivery I will need to take into consideration? What are the checkpoints you really check or the quality checkpoints you check so that the candidate, the client is delighted?
So we do ensure that the projects should get delivered in time. So we had adopted all the project management best practices that whatever the vendors are there or the suppliers like third-party inspection companies there, whatever the documents that we need from the client should come in time. Our team should deliver all deliverables, the documents that we need to prepare should be there in time. The payment should go to the client in time. Whenever whatever the invoices that they submit should be paid in the credit period that had been mentioned by the client. So having good business relations with them has also created delight for them. So all the best practices, whatever we can do, we had gone for the same during last few years.
Okay. So, and the second thing is, what do you think is the threat to your business model? In the sense, you said money to finance, you are having a second round of shares, equity market, I think so you're going to go. So, but my thing here is, what do you think is the threat? Who are your substitutes in the sense that you think, who are your competitors, anything? Because you have really created good wealth for the shareholders as well as stakeholders, both of them together. So what do you think is any risk involved there in the future growth or anything of this you want to share, that how robust your business model per se is?
Risks. Yeah, so the risks are related to the resources which do support to the business model. That means the service providers, the auditors, they do provide services to us, the people who are working for the projects, and obviously the competitors from which are trying to get over the surface from the national international carbon market. So all these are all the risks, and then again the regulatory risks are also there. But all such kind of risks we have taken the internal measures to mitigate the same. And from the high risk we have, although it's impossible to bring the risk to zero, but from high level to the moderate level, we had adopted all the measures for all those identified risks to have their minimum impact over the business model or over the top line or bottom line of the organization.
Oh, that's great, Manish. Manish, the other question here is: see, you started a startup and then you have scaling it up. What are the challenges you faced in scaling up, and how did you manage those challenges? So you are increasing the size from some.
Yeah, so scaling up means having more, since we are in the service industry, so have more and more people on board. So earlier we were handling only 10-15 people, and now it's 150, and maybe we would be handling 300 people. 300 people working from various different locations, working during this pandemic period. Working from home is also one of the option that we need to give to people. So plus working with various vendors, various clients, more than 700, 800 projects are there. So obviously all these stuffs are very challenging, and we are now trying to have more leadership team members to handle all these risks and opportunities more efficiently.
Okay, that's great, Manish. That's great. Yes, the floor is open to the students to ask any questions.
Hi, Manish. This is Subrat Mahapatra. Good evening, and thank you for sharing your experience and taking through the subject. Really interesting. And what excited is from 183 rupees of IPO to 5,800 is the current, I think, trading now. So that's very motivating. But
It's
I
more
have,
than 7,000 today.
oh, is it? I last
My
saw was
God.
5,800. I
So should
last
we
saw was
invest?
5,800. So wow, in a falling index also it is at 7,000. Really. Um, I have few questions on that. What about the Indian regulations? Because emitting carbon and the Indian context, most of them are the PSUs, public sector companies are creating. And if I see your clientele list, none of the PSUs are there. Is it because there is no formal regulation in India and they are not binding by that? And second part of my question is, I work with the Dover Corporation, which is into oil and gas, and we work with Shell and BP very exclusively. They do care and give in the business. They give advantage to people who are adopting such this thing. How do we validate and if the validation, suppose we reduce some carbon, and the validation is authenticated by an agency, and that is acceptable worldwide? That's my question.
Yeah, so coming over the first question related to the number of our clients or the number of projects which are registered in India in the private sector as compared to the government sector. So the problem is the first problem that I identified is related to the awareness. The private clients, they used to be very much aware on the different avenues from where they can secure revenue. And that is the deficit that I have identified in reference to the awareness related to this such kind of carbon finance is also available for the business activities, because private sector organizations are also doing the similar activities what the government sector companies are doing in reference to installation of renewable energy projects or energy efficiency projects or various different measures which are helping to reduce the greenhouse gases. So the awareness is the first problem, and another problem is if various projects are being registered from the public sector domain also, but they hadn't because the people used to change frequently, maybe next 1 year or by 1 year or 2 year, 3 year, and so the new guys whosoever to come, they maybe again the awareness problem will become. So various projects are being registered, but various the verification had not been done. So second step is once the project is registered, we need to get it regularly verified to sell the credit. So the problem is again comes in reference to the awareness and internal push related to getting the revenue from sale of carbon credit in the form of carbon finance, you can say. The second problem that I identified is in reference to getting the project verification, and the last problem is since the carbon market, we do not in this present carbon market during last 8 years we do not have any carbon credit exchange where PSUs can sell the carbon credits, and so everything is whatever the carbon market is there there in. It used to happen over the counter basis only. So the buyer and seller used to meet over the counter and they do deal. But so since government companies, they do not have any benchmark to take decision in reference to selling the credits. So that is why if verification has also been done, since the credits are not being sold, so next verifications these organizations are not taking up. So this is the problem, because the earlier revenue has not been realized by the sale of carbon credits. So next verification people do not do by considering that would be again the next burden. Since we are investing, we are doing expenses, but we are not getting any revenue from the sale of carbon credits. So that is a problem. These are the three problems that I had concluded during last 12-13 years by working in the government and private sector, and also identification of the vendor in reference to getting the project registered, verified based on the lowest cost model. That means we need to participate in tender and have to compete with the small players also, who do not have much experience, but they do quote less, and we would not be able to give the similar services, and so the project will get rejected. So that is also one of the problem. These are some 3-4 problems which had contributed less from the benefit to the public sector domain as compared to the private sector domain in India. And what was the second question that you were asked?
Same thing, I think, sir.
Pardon, sir?
No. Yeah, the second question, yes, because unless there is a regulation, this PSU, nobody will fall in line. Is there any way forward for
yes.
that? Yeah. Because we see
so Indian government is
in BP and all, they are voluntarily doing it, and they are evaluating the contracts or any new projects by what vendors are doing it. So they have an ethical voluntary measurement system, but the PSUs are not getting it because there is no regulation. There is no guideline.
Yeah, because of having no regulation or guidelines from the ministry, for example, either no tracking mechanisms, from the top management, either the state or central level, also is the problem, because while working with the new initiatives within the government system, many times people do not want to take a risk related to the different questions that.
Thank you, Manish.
So now the next question, if someone is looking to ask.
Deep wanted to ask.
Yes, sir. So first of all, thank you so much for this great presentation, sir. It's an extremely exciting topic, sustainability. Sir, being a consultant, I just have one question, and the second one is a bit tangential. The first question is, sir, in this domain, sir, this entire business model works on the success fee, as I understand. I mean, you take all the risk and responsibility right in the beginning, and based on the success of the project, you get the revenue. So, sir, this is a very risky proposition as a consultant. So, on what parameters do you decide which project to take and which client to work for? Because extremely risky proposition, and then that means you are so confident that you have done so much of background research about the project and the client that, I mean, that kind of risk can be taken, because as a consultant, we are the people who are paid the last. So that is one question. And the second question is tangential, sir. I'm extremely excited about water credits, and I want to understand, sir, why not water credits? Why are water credits not taking up, whereas carbon credits are very much, a hot topic? So why not water credits? Why can't we, modify a business, prepare a business model for water credits? Because India is on the verge of water crisis. So these are the two questions that I request if you could help me with, sir.
Yes, so carbon credit is a sort of coming over the second question. Now, first, so now the carbon credits is kind of an environmental commodity which is globally accepted, while the water, because our air, or for example India or from other nation, it is very well interconnected. So whatever the pollution which is going that we are doing from India, it is going to impact the other countries altogether. So that is why the carbon credits comes under the global environmental commodity, while water credits, water streams, drinking water streams are not connected. Maybe Indian streams may be connected with some 1 or 2 or 3 nations, for example, China, Pakistan, or other 1 or 2 more nations. While so whatever the water credits, if we are going to generate, then it is having only local demand. We would not be able to see the global demand, because the streams are not very well connected. While this environmental the air pollution stuff is the global in nature, well connected with all the nations. So that is why the traction related to the water credits is very, very less as compared to the carbon credits, or you can say the plastic credit is another environment, another kind of commodity which is upcoming, and this commodity is also facing the similar problem because all the plastics streams, you can say, or the plastic, the whole supply chain is not a single supply chain. So it is fragmented within the nation, or some nations are interconnected with the source of the waste and the disposal of the waste which is there. So that is why this plastic credit and water credit, I think, would face high difficulty to have international acceptability, and the market, the global market, in a short period of time, say next during 10 years. After that, if they would be having some international treaty similar to the Kyoto Protocol or Paris Agreement, then again the market will get consolidated, and then we'll be able to have the local credits get converted into the global credits to be traded. So that is the one thing. And another thing is related to the risk. So since we had evolved our business model, and by doing various projects, now we have for some sectoral projects, we are very much sure that we would be able to do it without having much risk or risk factors, and putting the money to get complete whole registration verification, giving the registration fee, verification fee, either having those credits within the books to be sold and paying advance to the client, or maybe working on the revenue sharing model. So for majority of the sectors for which we are working, we have got good exposure and experience, and the risk that we had identified had been minimized, and that is why we are very much confident to work in various sectors. So while few sectors are there, but from those sectors, the large number of projects are not there. So just to have a good experiment with the resources that we do have, we go for more high risky projects also.
Thank you so much.
Done. That's great. So it means the strategy what Deep just mentioned is a diversification strategy also for EnKing, correct? Diversifying into water or plastics.
Yes.
No? That's great. So that's nice.
So so now we are not very much. Yes. जी sir.
नहीं, आप कुछ कह रहे थे?
हाँ, मैं यही बताना चाह रहा था कि this carbon credits are the kind of the commodity which is globally accepted, while water and plastic credits are upcoming commodities which may take some 5 to 10 years time to get internationally accepted, because of not having whole supply chain internationally connected, because various supply chains are there within the nation, like water streams are there, pure water streams are there within the nation, and they are not internationally connected. So that is why if you do any activity related to the water conservation, and if you want to sell those credits to any company based in Germany, so the business case would not be well connected. Why they should buy the credits which are originated from India within the nation? They may accept it, but
I agree.
It is very difficult to sell internationally.
This last question was from Saurabh Rane. He mentioned that for a company operating in your industry, what are the regulation and standards that it has to follow? I believe in your PPT you had mentioned that. Yeah. But that was in chat, so I just said last one.
There is no any regulation within India. Internationally, in some environment, for example, if you are working in UK, if you are working in USA, not USA, I do have knowledge of UK and Australia also. We need to take licenses to work under such kind of financial or you can say connected environmental commodities related to the finance. So we need to take licenses there, but in majority developing nations, we do not have any such licenses or regulatory regime, because government, even they do not have identified this particular sector to have good regulations. So as of now, from RBI, from SEBI, from Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Ministry of Power. We do not, our industry do not face any issue related to the taking permission from them or having licenses from them.
Then any questions? Small short questions.
So Sujit here. One question.
Yeah, tell me.
Thanks, Mr. Manish, for the presentation. My question, a couple of related questions, picking up from the question from Professor regarding the competition. So the competition, is it concentrated in specific countries, majorly emerging nations? If so, how would you see the trajectory of the industry as such? Will it be similar to, say, a pharmaceutical or IT services industry, where you see the pricing power or the value creation coming under pressure after a few years?
So competitors, what I do understand your question correctly. So I do understand, like, the competitors, they are located in both developing and developed nations. Developed nations competitors are more aggressive and more forward-looking as compared to the developing one, because they see the whole industry from the top side, because most of the buyers as of now are located at that location. So in the whole, you can say, stakeholders or the supply chain of our carbon credit industry, the buyers are located in developed nation, and the competitors who are located in developed nation. So they do have upper hand as compared to the companies or competitors located in developing nations like India. And so that is one question. And what is another question that you asked?
Regarding the pricing and the value capture that we are able to do now, so will we be able to sustain that, or that will come under pressure with the competition in mind?
So if you see the estimates that people or the researchers had done in reference to this, the sale rate of carbon credits. So the carbon credits which are originated from India are having, as at present, market prices ranging in between $0.5 to $10 per credit. If the similar credits are being generated from Europe, then the credit price is ranging more than $100. So still, we do have very good difference within the nation, within the credits which are generated from nation, having a wide range of $0.5 to $10. And then our next target is around $100. So once we would be able to achieve that global price, all the environmental commodities originated from across the different various nations, once they will get the equal prices, after that this particular problem will get surfaced. Till date, the market will position itself to have more and more value addition for the seller of carbon credits.
That's great. Now, if you have any other questions, you can just write it down, mail it to me, and then we can further discuss with them. We are doing a case study on them, so we'll work on that. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Manish. It was really enlightening. And best wishes to you all. And it's nice to see an Indian company doing really great across globe. And I hope you're doing more and more. And once your new shared this thing comes, please tell us. We're going to take the first one. So hope that increase. Huh? For us also, the wealth is going to increase. Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. It was great. Really, really great, Manish. Just wanted to personally thank you, and hope my EPGP students got really enlightened, and PGPMX students got really get enlightened, and hope to see you physically on campus someday.
Surely.
So we are going to see you. We are going to have an entrepreneurship workshop. So at that time, we'd really like to see you on campus on that.
Surely, sir. Surely.
Okay. Then. Yes. Thanks a lot. Yeah, it was really nice.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.